welcome once again to 720 and 720. This is John Schulman, and we've got a very unique guest, one that I don't know a ton about what he does that is so very important to the game, and they are growing and building. John Carter from Noah Basketball. John Carter, welcome to 720 and 720.
Thanks, Coach. Glad to be here.
Well, you're doing things. All of a sudden, y'all have gone crazy. You've got your own facility down there in Huntsville, and we're going to start very quick with your background, and then we're going to talk about Noah and what Noah does for college teams, high school teams, and now all of a sudden you are now very prominently in the NBA. So, John, tell us about your background.
Well, my background, I'm from North Alabama, so I'm a North Alabama guy. I catch a little grief about my southern accent as I travel around the country, as you can probably happen to you a time or two, I guess.
Just a few times.
But I grew up in this area. I'm an engineer. I went to Auburn, and I have somehow along the way my career's taken me down this software path. I'm also a little bit of a basketball nut. I was no superstar player or anything along those lines, but love the game, follow the game very closely. And then along the way, I met this guy in California who had this neat idea, and about a product. The original idea was to just give a product to provide instant feedback, so that a player could perfect their trajectory, could perfect the arc of the shot. And but we, of course, do way more than that today. But that was our genesis. That's how we started.
So you just started. You met a guy who had that idea, and with your engineering background, let's try to figure out something that we can help guys automatically, instantly tell them, are they shooting it too flat? Are they shooting it with too big of an arc? That was the whole premise of the whole deal?
Yeah, and I'll even go back a little bit further and give you just a real quick version there. But the guy's name's Alan Marty. He's in the Silicon Valley in California. And the original Noah product, we always joke and say, was a rake attached to a ladder. And so his daughter shot too flat, and he was trying to get her to shoot more arc. And so he put this up there, and obviously it didn't work. She couldn't hardly see the hoop looking through the ladder and the rake. And the idea was, wouldn't it be great if you could give a player feedback on their shot without them having to wear anything or shoot over anything or anything along those lines? And then that was real early 2000s. So this goes back quite a ways. But he, over time, formed a company, filed a patent, and then he and I connected shortly thereafter. And of course, I had to go out and do the things that you typically have to do. We had to raise some capital. We had to put together a business plan. We had to build a product, and they had already built a prototype, but it wasn't really in a sellable state. And so we just went to work. And the last, over a decade now, we started out by just barnstorming gyms. Lenny Acuff, that you know well, was one of the first guys I went to and showed the original prototype product to. Went around well over 100 high schools real quickly just to learn what they would like to see in the product. And I always joke and say, in typical fashion, coaches told me what they want, then I went and built it, and it wasn't what they wanted.
Coaches are kind of strange. Not even kind of strange. I mean, in Lenny Acuff's team, they really struggle shooting that ball. So, I mean, they really struggle. I mean, they make every shot, every three they shoot. So as you are beginning to make this, and then you're going, where do we put it? Who are we selling it to? How much is it? And all that good stuff. Tell us kind of where it started, and tell us really exactly kind of where it started, and what was it? Could you wheel it in? Did you bring it in?
Basically the original product was kind of a lectern, type thing, about the size of a podium that was on wheels, and you rolled it around to the side of the court, and then a player could walk out and shoot. You could only shoot straight ahead, so you could walk over and shoot a free throw. And you could only get arc feedback. So it would say 45, 52, 38. And in the case, for example, of a Shaquille, it would say something like 35, where, the Steph Currys of the world, it would consistently say 46, 45, 45. I mean,
so what is Steph? I'm just curious, what is Steph shooting at?
Steph is somewhere around, I've seen, he's actually shot on Noah at a bunch of different places. The Warriors, of course, have our stuff as well, but he shot at a training facility not too long ago, and I think his three-point arc was 46, 47, right in there. Just a tad on the high side, of the ideal of 45, but just incredibly consistent.
Okay,
All the
when you
great
see
shooters do certain things the same.
explain to all of our listeners, explain what 45 actually means in scientific ways.
Sure. Well, what we're measuring is the entry angle. So when I say 45-degree arc or 45-degree trajectory, I'm always referring to the entry angle. The entry angle is the most important metric to measure when it comes to trajectory. For example, in basketball, you've literally got players from 7'3" or whatever down to in the WNBA, you might have a 5-foot player. The entry angle, the rim obviously stays the same. So the entry angle, the physics of that does not change, and 45 is the optimal entry angle. However, for that 5-foot player to get the same entry angle as Dirk Nowitzki, they have to actually shoot it at a different launch angle. So the launch angle varies pretty significantly. The optimal launch angle does, but the entry angle is the same, and so that's the reason we chose to measure it at the rim.
Okay, so you're not measuring launch angle; you're measuring at entry. All right.
That's correct.
So entry, okay, so you tell me if entry angle is so important, and we've always heard, can 2 balls fit in a rim? Yes or no?
Yes, with a little bit of manipulation, 2 girls' balls that go through there pretty easily. 2 guys' balls, you might have to, maneuver it just a little bit. Here's the thing, though, Coach, that have been, we've had a real education task, but basically shooting too high. And this is going to be a shocker to a lot of people. Shooting too high is just as bad as shooting too flat. It hurts your shooting percentage just as much as shooting too flat. And we've had a difficult time, but we finally got there. We had a really difficult task of educating the basketball world on that, because the feeling always was, hey, if I shoot it higher, there's going to be more space as the ball goes down through the rim, so it's going to score more often. And it's just not true. It is true that there's more space, but what happens is there's a loss of control that takes place when you get above 45. And just the physics of the trajectory, you end up missing short, long, significantly more. Some of our biggest successes has been lowering players' arcs and have players drop from, just see their shooting percentage as they drop their trajectory, see their shooting percentage just go up substantially. I'm not talking about just a little bit either. I'm talking 20, 25 percentage points from a free throw line, 10, 12 percentage points from 3 by lowering their arc.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm sitting here listening. I know I'm supposed to be running the show. I'm sitting here listening. Feel like a listener. All right. Let me ask you this. All right. So you went from, at one time you could go straight on free throws, and okay. When did that change, and how did that change?
So we started. So basically, we knew the current product had limitations. We always wanted to be able to track every shot all over the floor. We always wanted to do things like entry position in the rim as opposed to just trajectory. We wanted to know that the shot was 2.7 inches to the left and 8.7 inches deep. Those are things that have been on our radar for some time. We also wanted to automatically recognize who the player is and then go back even further and determine, well, what type of shot did they take? And so if you think about it from a product strategy standpoint, we're focused on the rim, entry angle, entry position, and then we worked our way back, and now we're doing automatic facial recognition. We have multiple NBA teams that are using that product and have 2 college teams that we just installed. And now we're going back a step even further to determine what type of a shot was it? Did the pass come from the left? Did it come from the right? Did it come from the post? If we know those things, we can further isolate exactly where the player's weaknesses are. So that was kind of the ultimate goal, and we now have that product out in the field. But I skipped ahead a little bit. So about 3 years ago, the sensors, if you think of sensors, cameras, depth sensors, things like that, there's been a huge technology move in that area. I mean, there's just been a lot of advancement, and a lot of that is around the driverless car. A lot of the sensors that have been developed for that industry that, during our lifetime, I'm sure we'll get chauffeured around in a driverless car, which will be neat. But we've taken.
You think it'll be neat? I'm gonna stay in the seat. All right, go ahead.
You and my wife. My wife says she's not going to ride in one, but I'm looking forward to it. But basically, these sensors, now we have a sensor instead of having it on this, rolling podium, if you want to call it, this rolling cart. We have a sensor up above the hoop. And this sensor lets us see everything in 3D. And so we can determine, where the shot came from, all the angles from any different angle. So it just lets us monitor the entire half court, which is great. So it's really the involvement of sensors, and kind of what happened with us. We were moving, just kind of at a steady pace with the old product. And as these new sensors started to come out, we started doing some research. We actually did a lot of work with a professor at Carnegie Mellon University up in Pittsburgh, and got this first product kind of prototype working in the summer of 2016. And then we had a few beta customers like University of Virginia, with Coach Bennett. We worked very closely with him for a long time, just a terrific guy. And
he reminds me of me. I tell my wife all the time, when I look in the mirror, I see him. And so I'm just go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Keep on going.
No, that's good. But anyway, so he, we worked with them. We worked with the Mavericks and some other teams to kind of get the product figured out. And then we went to, I don't know if you've heard of it, or I'm sure you've heard of it, the Sloan Sports Conference up at MIT. It's the largest sports analytics conference, I believe, in the world now. And so we showed up there February of 2017, just a little over 2 years ago, and introduced this new product. We entered a research competition that we ended up winning, and we also they had kind of this startup type competition that everybody did these little quick 5-minute investor kind of pitches. We ended up winning that as well. And that's really where we launched this new product and our, kind of our new company, so to speak. And, we went from having just a few beta customers to, having a pretty large number of NBA teams almost immediately. So that was kind of a big launch point for us.
Well, congrats on that. I know y'all are booming. So you were at the Summer League last year. So explain to us what you were doing in Vegas at the Summer League.
Yeah, we were just, collecting data. We were basically tagging shots and collecting the data so that teams could access and help them evaluate players.
Okay, so where was your machine? Where was the NOAA device at an NBA game? Where is that?
Well, for that particular setup, it was in the ceiling, and we kind of had two different setups there at the Summer League, where we had one was in Cox. I don't know if you've been to that before.
Yep.
The smaller arena, we were mounted from the ceiling, and in Thomas and Mack in the large arena, we actually had a installation at the top of the shot clock. And so again, as these sensors continue to evolve, so we now have we did about 50 Pac-12 games this year, where we actually had this little tiny sensor about the size of your thumb mounted at the top of the shot clock. I'm sure you've seen this 100 times, but they typically put robotic cameras, ESPN does for nationally telecast games. There's some little receiver holes up there. We put our little small sensor up there, and we tracked every game in the Pac-12 tournament, the first time that had been done. And so, people can go, the coaches can go in, look at the data, and see exactly, why. The big thing that we do, Coach, that's the most interesting is the why. Anybody can count makes and misses.
Yeah.
And say, okay, this guy made 60% of his shots in the workout, but why did he miss the 40? And that's really what we do. I think it was Doc Rivers that gave us that quote. Is understanding why a player's missing and the importance of that, because there's a lot of smart shooting guys out there. But they can't sit there and, with a naked eye, see that a player is missing 2.7 inches to the left 60% of the time. We can. And so we're able to isolate those things, and then able to isolate also, we see the strangest things. We see players from the right corner that miss 3 inches to the left. We see players from straight ahead that shoot 2 inches too short. All of those things that their body and their brain does, we measure that, and then they can go out and correct it.
So you're really, it's the same thing as putting. I just went to the Champions Tour and watched these guys with every device that they could buy, watching every shot, and they're getting instant feedback. These guys are looking at their camera and they're looking at the computer and instant feed. And that's exactly what you're doing, but on the basketball court.
That's exactly right. To bring up Coach Bennett's name again, Tony says we're the launch monitor of basketball. Is the way he's got one good friend in particular that's a PGA Tour caddy, and that's kind of the way he looks at us. We're the launch monitor of basketball. basketball. And so we do a little bit more than that, but it's true.
Well, you're giving guys instant feedback so they can change as they're going, and they're getting instant feedback. So I'm assuming that's the why. What you're probably ready for the next thing. How can they correct what they're doing wrong? Is that more to the coaches, or is that more you?
Today we don't get into the mechanics discussion very much. I've read about everything you can read about shooting a basketball, but as you can imagine, in our position, as we bounce around from NBA gym to NBA gym to college gym, Coach Bennett might have a little different approach to how he wants to teach something than NBA Team X. And so we provide them the information, we provide them the tools, and then they go out and determine. Now, one thing we are doing, kind of the next one of the things we have on our development drawing board, is actually getting into the biomechanics a little bit. And so with these cameras we use for facial recognition, we have this great view of the shooter always. And so we've done some preliminary skeletal analysis. For example, how much does a guy load? How is, what is really the optimal base as far as, is it really shoulder width? Should it be a little wider? All of those type things. We can measure the angles of the non-shooting hand and non-shooting arm. Things like that we have now and can measure. So
I know you're booming. I told my son, I was like, we're going to do something with Noah basketball. I think it's really going to help him. He said, Dad, they don't need your help. So I know you're booming, but I think there's so much more. Some people just like, okay, this is it. This is you got a whole nother level you can go to, I think, just to be honest.
No, there's no doubt about that. We are, we are not sitting on our hands around here from a development standpoint. I promise you that. There's this, the further we dig, the more things we discover that we could implement and make a part of the product. So it's an exciting time. It's a lot of fun. I mean, we've collected. We literally, this entire data set we're talking about here of arc, depth, shot depth in the hoop, left, right position of the hoop. That's something no one's ever measured before. And we've collected, we'll be at 200 million shots here real soon. I think we're at about 190 million shots collected right now at all levels of the game, from middle school to training facilities to high school to college and NBA teams. And that data is just incredibly important as you go through and you look at what really is the perfect shot. You could ask, I'll tell you one quick little side note. I had a call with an NBA team recently and had 3 guys on the call, and they had a very prominent player on a prominent team that was struggling. And what was interesting is all 3 of the people on the call had a different opinion of what the problem was.
Yep.
But they didn't have any real data to go back to. The teams that have our stuff now can go back and say, well, let's go back and look at his data in January when he was shooting it well, and compare it to today. And that's if a player's coming back from an injury, to be able to go back and look at all their shot data from before, and and be able to get them back to their normal shot quicker. So it's just a lot of things you can do with that data, and we're excited about. One of our big pushes now is to move into the arenas, like we did with the Pac-12 this year. You should see us in more arenas next year.
Well, okay. Here's what so, I'm an old coach, so I want to get you to come in. I'm gonna give you a couple different ideas, but so I've got a practice facility, or I've got or I practice doing my practice in one arena, in college. Tell me what you're going to come in and do this for me so we can use this all the time. You're going to put it on a wall. I know UAH is on the wall. So tell me kind of that progression first of all, how many NBA teams do you have?
We have just right about half the NBA uses our technology.
All right, and I know you've thought about this. It's really cool to be in the NBA, and I know you can do more in the NBA, but you got half, and there's only so many you can have. How many college programs are you with?
We have, as far as overall, I think there's about 200.
Okay.
But we have about, I looked this up the other day, I think it's 40 or 41 that have the new 3D stuff that we've been talking about the last few minutes here. Like UAH has.
Yep.
Where you can track all the shots all over the floor. But back to your earlier point, there's certainly a limited number. You can't. For example, 30 NBA teams. We also have we have thousands of high school customers if you include everything. But we already have a few hundred with this new product as well.
Well, that's what I was going to hit on, is that you got unlimited. I mean, ridiculous number of high schools and even middle school. And I think that's what I think I know you can go to so many different levels with the NBA and with college. But these little guys who are just trying to learn to shoot the ball the right way, in a freshman basketball team and a JV team and in a middle school program, this would be so valuable, I think, to those kids and to fall in love with the game. So, I mean, I'm assuming the NBA teams are spending a few dollars on your your merchandise, but I'm assuming that as that goes up, maybe, what can I do if I'm a middle school coach and a high school coach? What do I need to do if I'm interested, and why do I need to do it? Tell me.
Yeah, well, first off, here's the biggest thing as far as the why they need to do it. Less than 10% of high school players actually shoot the correct trajectory. So think about that for a second. That means 9 out of 10 of your players are doing it wrong. And that's the reason we've had the high schools get more, and middle schools for that matter. They get more from this than any team.
I can see
if you
that.
Think about what we found also, that when you get to the college level, about half the players are shooting the correct trajectory. When we get to the NBA, it's over 80%. And that would make sense. The guys are at the NBA,
Mm-hmm.
They're there for a reason. But we've had just crazy success with high school teams because, again, if they can just follow just a simple rule of, okay, I'm going to get everybody on the team shooting the correct trajectory, and it's doable. You can do it very quickly with the instant feedback, and you're going to see a percentage increase. I mean, it just happens every single time. So they get the biggest bang for the buck because they've just got more room to improve. But the college teams as well. It's not uncommon for a college team. You've seen it. It just pains me to have to watch a game and watch a guy shoot at 55 degrees or 35 degrees and knowing that player could be as much as 20, 25 percentage points better from the free throw line if he was using our technology. So that's the frustrating side of it. But it just works.
You watch, it was very simple to me. You watch Wofford play Kentucky in the NCAA tournament. And Wofford could have, should have won that game because they had shot makers. And Kentucky is Kentucky, and Kentucky probably should have lost that game, but they didn't have shot makers. They probably got one shot maker. And so the game, which I think you're probably enjoying and reaping the benefits, is going to an offensive game. And if you got guys who can make shots, and you got guys who can think the game but pass, catch, and shoot the ball, but really shooting the ball is now the name of the game. And it's the name of the game not only here in this country, but over that little pond over there to the right and left. If you can shoot the ball, you can make money playing the game. And I think the Europeans kind of taught us that. And now all of a sudden, now we're catching up. And now, which kind of helps you in the long run.
No, it does. Today's game, Anthony Tolliver, we did a video on him, who plays with the Timberwolves right now, recently. And the video starts with Tolliver saying, today's game is all about shooting. And that's so true. It is a shooter's game today, and it's a great equalizer.
I could have helped you, John. I could have. Me and Anthony, it's true. It is all about shooting the ball now.
Yeah, no question about it. And if you can't shoot it, and it's not going to change, anytime soon, that's for sure. They've changed the rules up a little bit that frees the game up a little bit more and frees the guys out front a little bit more. And it's just crazy the analytics side of things. And if you think of the math of shooting and what a three does, you look at teams like the Rockets and others, and you see those shot charts and the spatial maps that basically shows them shooting threes or layups. And so that's the highest return.
Because mid-range is now gone.
It's all but gone. It's an end of shot clock kind of kind of shot.
Well, okay. So is it affordable? Okay, so I'm a high school basketball coach in the sticks of Tennessee or Alabama. Can I afford it? How do I do it? Is it payment? What can I do? Because I want to be a better shooting team, and that's the great thing about basketball is it doesn't matter if you're at when I went to University High in Johnson City or you're at UAH or you're at Virginia or you're with the Spurs. You want to be the best, and it doesn't matter. How can I afford it, or can I, and do I have to have it?
Well, we think we have a somewhat affordable solution. It's certainly there's a cost associated with it, but a single system is as little as $2,600 as far as the upfront fee, and then there's an ongoing data fee of $100 a month. And so you take a typical high school, one of those out in the sticks, like you're saying, one like I went to.
Yeah.
I went to Elkmont High School in North Alabama, but at that particular gym, the middle school teams, the high school teams, boys and girls, would all have access to the same system. And so if you look at a $1,200 a year fee, and you can divide that between 3 or 4 teams, we even have some teams that they're youth leagues because a lot of them practice, in the high school gym or the auxiliary gym. And we've actually had quite a few teams where the youth leagues have actually bought the NOAA system. And so basically there's an upfront fee of, whether it's $2,500 for one hoop, most people do 2 hoops. So there's an upfront fee of $5,000. And then there's an ongoing fee of $100 a month. You can track all your games live. You can have every shot chart, all those type details, and again, get the why. Okay, wow, from the right corner, John Carter shoots it too high. And knowing that type of information, you can go right back to the court and train that out and be ready the next game.
With instant feedback, if I'm a junkie and I want to know what's going on all the time, and I want to know how I can improve. And this helps me improve. Like I said, the same thing in golf, and it tells you instantly what's going on for your basketball team and for your kid. I think the gun was the huge thing for a while, and everybody's got a gun and everybody's shooting with the gun. I think that was about 5,000.
That's correct. Yep.
But it's a similar concept, and you're right. If you got multiple teams that can use it and will use it. I think it's very affordable, and it's vital how the game's going. And we all want to be better at what we're going to be good at, and then you better be good at shooting that basketball. And so you going from the NBA to middle school, it's all the same. You better be able to shoot that ball.
No, that's exactly right. And the thing that that we talk about a lot around here, anytime we get in front of high school or college teams or whomever, is our goal is we want every player to reach their potential. And that potential varies. It could be that this kid's goal is just to make the team, where another kid's goal could be to play in college or play professionally or whatever. But what I do know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, if a player is shooting 38 degrees, 49 degrees, 53 degrees, we see all of that, and at the high school level especially, that player's not reaching their potential, and they absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, would make more shots if they trained with that immediate feedback. No question about it. We've done it too many times.
So really the immediate feedback really is just it's just muscle memory to me. Is that the end all be all? Is I'm hearing 45 and I got to shoot it like that every single time?
Yeah, and you also can, there's a video that I spoke at an analytics conference last weekend over in Durham, and I played a little video for the group I was doing this presentation for, of Tony Bennett and Kyle Guy both shooting with left-right feedback. So think about that for a second. If you're shooting and the system says 0, that means that ball was dead straight. If it says -2, that means it was 2 inches to the left. I'm 54 years old. I shoot the ball straighter today than I ever have. And it's because I never knew that I shot the ball on average about 1.5 inches to the right. And so I've corrected that now. And now
I'm just curious, how'd you correct that?
In my case, it was as simple as listening to the feedback. So again, left-right is obviously a lot of its mechanics. But players, we have saw players, for example, there was a player at the summer league last year that every shot they shot, except for one or two, was in the left half of the basket. Every shot. And so if you know those things and you can give feedback on that, it just helps the hand-eye, again, the muscle memory, the coordination of giving it. And it could be an alignment issue. Again, if the coach knows, wow, on average this player shoots at 3 or 4 inches to the left. Most of the time when you ask a coach that, they'll just say, well, all I know is it doesn't go in very much. And so we need to correct that somehow.
Well, us old guys, analytics scares. I can't even spell it. Analytics scares a lot of people, but it's how the game's going to now. And now all of a sudden you got the ability to really learn more about each one of your kids, and with that facial recognition. I know you got one really good-looking kid that comes in there from UAH with that facial recognition. Kind of looks just like me and Tony Bennett, I guess.
Yeah.
But now, and you've also got a new place. If I'm coming through, and our listener, if we're coming through near Huntsville, can people give you a call and sneak over to your place, because you got a brand new place, correct?
Sure. We have people drop in here quite a bit. I know Michael met somebody here this past Sunday, a coach that was driving through the area that had been down to Birmingham. We're right on, we're 5 minutes off Interstate 65, just between Athens and Huntsville, or Athens and Madison. So, and we've got a full half-court gym set up here. We've got all the technology, the very latest stuff, even the stuff that we're experimenting with, obviously, is installed here. That's where we do all our testing. And so we're happy to have coaches drop in here, see the system, get up some shots themselves, even bring a player or two over if they want, and we'll make the arrangements to make that happen.
John, you've been phenomenal. You've been great. I know you're doing great things for the game. I know your business is killing it, but you're doing great things for the game, because the game, what everybody wants is, everybody was in a panic that night. Oh my God, Virginia and Texas Tech are going to play. It's going to be the worst game in the history of the game. There were some shot makers out there on that court, and it ended up being one of the best finals to ever play. And people want to see that ball go in that basket. And I think the NCAA is ready to move that 3-point line back. I think they're going to start going to the FIBA line. And so it's, that's not going to change anything in your world. It's just going to help guys be able to make shots from back there. Do you remember back in the day when like Larry Bird would make a 3 in a game, and it was like a big deal? I mean, Bird made a 3 in an NBA game. And now are you kidding me? There's teams making 15 to 20 in a game, every game.
No, it's crazy. If you go back, and of course, again, if you think of my age, when I was in high school was when Larry Bird was playing at Indiana State. So it's that was a great basketball era, but it was different. A 3-pointer was not something that you took unless you had a great look, or I went back and looked at the stats. We actually did something for the Sloan presentation last year where we actually plotted the number of 3-point attempts over the last 30 years or something like that, and it's just like a exponential line going up, and it's still going up. There's records broken every year of the number of attempts and the number of makes and all those type things, and the teams that are making them are winning. Well, it's not like this is a crazy idea. The teams that are making them are winning.
No, and it started Loyola Marymount with West Head, and then it went to, now it's like Grinnell. I did an ESPN3 game for Grinnell a couple years ago, and Grinnell is shooting, they're shooting 50, 60 threes in a game, and now Duger Bockham at the Citadel, a buddy of mine's shooting all, and now that's hooked on with Annie Pennington at Sequoia High School up here in Tennessee. It's everywhere, because it's the name of the game right now. But the name of the game, the game will change here and there. It goes in cycles. But one thing that not going to change is ability to make shots. And so I think you're going to be okay. I think, John, I'm not real worried about you. I think you're going to be okay. And I just want to thank you for what you're doing for the game. And thanks for spending some time with us today. And anytime there's a Schulman that sneaks over there and wants to use a facility, let him do that, because he needs to make all the shots.
We'll do that for sure. And I've enjoyed being on and appreciate your kind words.
Well, listen, we appreciate you, appreciate what you're doing, and thanks again for your time. Hey, listen, let me ask you this. Somebody wants to get, I know you don't want them to call your cell, but somebody wants to get in touch with you and one of your guys to learn more about NOAA. And also where'd Noah come from?
Yeah, well, we're all believers. So who built the perfect ark? Noah. So that's
Yeah.
literally where the name came from. So
I love it.
so that's we started out our we started, it was all about ark for us. Now we do a lot more than ark, but that was the original idea. That was what it was all about in the beginning. So that's it's kind of funny how teams refer to Noah and people refer to Noah. They always say, well, I'm going to go shoot on Noah. I'm going to go shoot with Noah. It's like it's a person. And that's one thing we get a lot of great feedback from colleges, as you know, pretty limited on the amount of time they can be in the gym with players.
No doubt.
And so this gives them the opportunity to go in and get up shots. It's like having a virtual coach
Absolutely.
in the gym. And they're able to get work in even when the coach can't be there with them.
All right, how's anybody going to get in touch with y'all?
So they can go to our website, noahbasketball.com. And then secondly, they can give us a call. And it's 888-TRY-NOAH, T-R-Y Noah. So 888-TRY-NOAH. Or it's also 256-233-3500. So, but yeah, they can definitely read on the website. They can fill out inquiries and things like that as well.
All right, you're good, my man. Thanks so much for spending time with us and teaching us a little bit more about the game. We appreciate your time.
All right, thank you, Coach.
All right, buddy, take care.